Hello everyone, Brainy Brendan here, and it's been a minute since I've recorded a video on this channel, but it happens. I had a lot of big life changes. However, I'm starting to make a series on this channel. It's going to be a surprise what the series is, but you might be able to figure it out based on this video. So I just graduated from college, but I'm staying at college to get my master's degree, and if you don't know what that means, I can explain it a little bit like in the comments if you have any questions, but um I'm still going to be on my campus, but something I'm going to be talking about in this video is the alarm systems in the apartment complex on my campus. So over the past few months, I've actually been working part-time in the complex, which is quite cool because that gave me the ability to look into a bunch of different apartments and see all kinds of devices. And I also got some really good information, which I would not be privy to if I did not work here. So let's go. So let's give a little context about the complex. It was built in two phases. Phase one was built in the 90s and phase two was built in the early 2000s. They're aesthetically the same. I guess the main difference is kind of this, the popcorn walls versus the smooth walls. And then buildings 1 through 9 are in phase one. Building 10 is in phase one, like kind of in the corner, but it's built during phase two's development. And then phase two is back here. So we have water, electric, gas, but also thing to keep in mind, the blue where there's water, there's little closets where the panels are, but we'll talk a little bit about that shortly. There's also an activity building in each phase called a clubhouse. The phase two one is of course a little smaller, phase one is bigger. And then another thing to keep in mind is that whenever a fire alarm device dies, it is replaced with the company that is partnered with the complex at the time. So let's talk about panels first. So the main panel is the Mircom FX2000. I don't know what this trouble means. They fixed it since it's been on there, but that's when I took the picture. But each building's panel actually feeds into it. It's not connected to any notification appliances or pull stations of its own. So it just kind of serves as a device that lets the staff know that an alarm was triggered. I think each panel has a dialer to the fire department, but this one has a dialer to the emergency phone that staff member on duty carries around. And yes, each building has its own Firelight MS10UD. This is the one that's in the second clubhouse. The first clubhouse has one as well. I didn't really get a picture of it. And yes, so that means the first clubhouse does have two panels, which is very interesting. But other than panels, let's talk about our initiating devices. The original pull stations in phase one were FCI MS6 pull stations. There was only a few left, actually, and this is one of them. They look very interesting. Honestly, I feel like the average person seeing that might not even realize that's a fire alarm, other than the big letters that say fire alarm. It almost looks kind of fake, but it's also very simple. Phase two's original pull stations were EST. In fact, phase two had a very big EST thing. Phase one had a very big FCI thing. And as you can see, here's one of these little EST pull stations. And replacement pull stations, these are kind of sporadic, but it's just Mircom and Silent Night. You can't see that very well, but it is Silent Night. I haven't seen anything else. It's possible there is something else. Also, I think some of these might be Firelight and not Silent Night, or something else like that, but I don't really know for sure. I just know the ones in my building are Silent Night because I live right by one. And then for smoke alarms, we actually don't have like commercial smoke detectors. It's all residential ones. Funny enough, I actually figured, so these are original ones, which I found one, and I kept it. Ooh, I kept it. But then we also have, these were the ones they put in around the late 2010s, and these are the ones they've been putting in lately. Though they've started putting in a new type where the battery's in the front, so you don't have to take it down to change the batteries. Problem is, that might make people want to take the batteries out more, but then you can't unplug it necessarily. I think they kind of try to make it to where you can't take it down. But the thing that's weird is even the clubhouse's smoke alarms are residential. But since, of course, as you saw previously, there are boilers near the clubhouses, they have carbon monoxide detectors in addition to the smoke detectors in the clubhouses. Now the notification appliances. This is the part that I'm sure you all have been waiting for, because this part is going to be interesting because I got some really good information, and also some of these devices are pretty rare, actually. Not as rare as some other devices that I've seen, on this campus, because we have buildings way older than the 90s, but these are pretty interesting. Phase 1 originals. FCI HE8F STW horn strobes. These. I can actually link a video below that I have of one going off. These things are annoying. And then these little Federal Signal mini horns, which look very similar to Gentex GX90s, but they're not, because I have seen a couple that you could still see the Federal Signal one there. The problem is a lot of them were painted over. And other ones, you can't actually see the model number one, which is very strange, but they look just like this. I don't know the model number exactly, but they're in the living rooms of the apartments. If you're in a handicap accessible apartment, you would have a FCI remote strobes in the living room, the bedrooms that are on the handicap side, and the bathrooms. The way they do the handicap apartments is only half of the apartment is fully accessible, plus the kitchen and living room, but the other half is not. Unless you're, of course, in a studio, then you're by yourself, the whole thing's going to be accessible. They're all on continuous. Very annoying. Very annoying. Phase 2 is where it gets more interesting from the get-go, and you can probably see with all these pictures. So EST integrities in code 3 are in the outdoor walkways. But then they have the EST mini horns in each bedroom, but some have them in the living rooms too. But others have these electronic plates like this, which actually have fire alarm underneath, because I've seen what it looks like underneath. So I believe, and I don't have confirmation of this, but I do have the suspicion that originally they were just going to put them in the living rooms like in phase 1, because these are basically a carbon copy of phase 1 with some minor differences. But they were told they had to put them in the bedrooms instead. But some rooms, they didn't actually take these out. And I think it's further proven when you look at the handicap accessible rooms and you see, wait, why is there separate mini horns and strobes in the bedrooms, but then a mini horn strobe in the living room? That's what I think furthers that point. But it's also possible this is a high candela strobe, but I'm not quite sure, because I do not know if that was a thing in really back in the early 2000s. I'm not really that familiar with that, with the technology behind that. Another interesting thing is that some are white, but I also think that one might have been painted over. They don't do a good job of painting here. You're going to see this quite a bit when we get into some of these replacement devices. The replacements, evidence and speaking with managers suggest the replacement time periods, which I compiled, not completely, of course, accurate, because things can change and things have been replaced sporadically over the years, but I have a general timeline available in the next few slides. Just a thing to keep in mind is that if you had a replacement device in phase 1 prior to 2005, they are EST devices. So there are a couple of integrities and a few of those EST mini horns in phase 1. But that is, of course, because if they're building phase 2 and they're putting EST, they're probably going to put EST if they're replacing devices in phase 1. There's not many. I haven't seen them have to do that very much. Now, let's see. I live in New Orleans, and the area was impacted by Hurricane Katrina. Whenever they did replacements after Hurricane Katrina, they actually did do a lot of the AMSECO and Mercom and rebranded Gentex devices, as you can see right here. This is when they had the Mercom replacements for the panels. They don't have Mercom panels anymore except for the main one, though. But when you get to the 2010 to 2016 period, that's when we get into the Spectral Alert Advance era, which does make sense because they were very common. These, I do not know why in this time a lot of devices ended up needing replacement. I'm not quite sure. They don't even have very many Gentex Commander 3s left. And what it seems like to me is that some of them you can actually see where it looks like a Gentex Commander 3 might have been. So I do believe they were just not made to be exposed to the elements as much as some of the other devices are, because none of these are outdoor rated devices. That's another thing to keep in mind. This is when the panel overhaul took place, as well as not very many mini horn replacements. Most of them are Spectral Advanced mini horns, of course, not very many of them. Code 3, I forgot to mention. And then after 2016, it's Wheelock. Wheelock is our new thing. So you see, we have a Wheelock, a Wheelock. Now this poor Wheelock has been popcorned. Yeah, they're not a good thing at painting. This is the worst. But I've seen this in a few apartments where popcorn ceiling has been sprayed on the fire alarms, which is not good at all. Other random replacements I've seen are usually EST of Genesis. I've seen these in a couple of apartments. And then I also saw some classic Spectral remote horns in some random spots. Never any classic Spectral Alert horn strobes, though. I've never seen that. So it is very interesting that we have this entourage of different devices. Now, the thing is to keep in mind is that this is probably because we have a bunch of different things that happened. So we have bad weather in New Orleans and hurricanes. What really makes sense is, we had Hurricane Katrina, then we had Hurricane Isaac, which really hit our area too, and then Hurricane Zeta in 2020 and Ida. So in 2021. So it's likely that, of course, devices have been replaced. We also haven't had our replacement after Hurricane Ida. So it is possible more devices will be replaced. Will it be Wheelock or will it be something else? That's a good question, because I'm not sure who they're partnered with now. Very interesting. I have not seen the L series yet. I hope we don't have L series. I have no idea what it will be, because our apartment complex, unlike the rest of campus, is actually a privately owned complex. So it would not necessarily be the same company that does the rest of campus. However, I think it's important to mention that this series is going to be a campus fire alarm series, which is going to be very interesting because I don't have to build videos of every fire alarm going off on this campus. So instead of trying to go to each building during the chance that a fire alarm will go off or that I know that they're being tested, what if I do some just sit down and talk videos and talk about the systems, talk about their history, and then also do a little bit of history about our buildings. Now, do keep in mind that for my own privacy, I will be doing I won't be showing a lot of pictures of the exteriors of the buildings, except for the ones that have a very unique architectural aspect. However, if there's anything else that I can do in this series, please let me know, because a lot of our buildings were built in the 60s, 70s, 80s. In fact, most of our buildings were not. I think our newest building on campus was built in 2008. So we do not have a lot of new stuff. So let's think about this. But anyway, guys, I'm so glad that you guys would join me for this video, and I would love to see what you guys have to say about this in the comments. Also, most of the information in this video is correct to my knowledge. However, there is some stuff that I will give the disclaimer now that I'm not quite sure if it's completely accurate. It's just stuff that the manager told me, and she's new, as well as the maintenance supervisor. He's also new. But they said they got a lot of this information from records. And others of it was just stuff I kind of figured out. But anyway, y'all, I will let you go now and have a great day.